All right. So, welcome to what I think is Wealth Cartel Ep.6. We're going to talk about what is their hindsight, your foresight. So, this is a concept that I've been working on for the last 7 or 8 years. The idea of this is to try and make better decisions for ourselves in life, right? There is a wealth of knowledge in the world. Everything that we learn from is somebody else's knowledge. It's not like it wasn't written in a scripture, like other than the Bible. It wasn't written in you know, in life. Like people have figured all this shit out, and all this wisdom. I guess this is just wisdom. Wisdom is just other people's hindsight, and I'm sick of seeing generations go by where we just make the same mistakes, and we all do it. Like I'm not sitting up here on my high horse. Like one of the most privileged things about my role is that I get to take information from people at all different walks of life around me and see the mistakes they've made, what worked, what didn't. I get to apply that in the own way for myself, for my life. And realistically, what financial planning is taking the knowledge of the financial system and then using those insights and applying it to people to achieve their goals. Like that's what I do. A lot of things come from mistakes of what other people have done, and a lot of opportunities come from good things. And I'm not talking like certain investments. I'm just saying strategies and habits and that kind of stuff. There's a very common trait behind what made people happy and what didn't. And this, like our average client's 30 to 34, and we know ourselves 10 years ago things our parents are telling us, like fuck off, that ain't true, it's not gonna happen. And now we're like, oh, I should have listened. And that happens over and over and over and over again. And this happens with our parents. They're telling us stuff that their parents told them that they would listen. Their parents, being older, if they're still around, are still telling them things that they're like, no, they're not listening. And then they'll get to their parents' age and they'll be saying the same shit to us. And so I wanted to put this book together with actual referencing, actual data, actual answers of people of all different generations to essentially put common hindsight on paper that we can read. And we'll still make the mistakes, but hopefully we can make them faster and we can learn from them faster, and we can keep a lot of the pain and heartache, for as deep or as long as we need to. And, I pride my business and my skill set on the main thing is I just try and give advice and I try and give education on things that to people that it might be at a point where I wish I had that at that point in my life. And it's not an age-based thing. There's people older than me going through things that I've went through in the past and vice versa. And I try to just really wrap that all up. I try and wrap that all up into something that says, when I was in that position, I wish I had this. And that's, I think that's what most services are, So going into this, so today I'm going to go through this, and I guess an outline of the book. It's not like a book, it's more of a statistic, essentially. I've taken each age group from young, teen, 20s, 30s, all the way up, accumulators, pre-retirees, retirees, and then like back end of life. And I've taken all of these age brackets and I've created a set of questions for each age bracket. And so, for example, what I do in this is I might say, in your 20s, what was the most important thing to you? What priority did money play, or et cetera, et cetera? What priority did health, relationships? And I've taken the data to interview each one of these data sets. Now, I haven't just interviewed, so this has come from my own meetings, this has come from my own interviews, and this has come from the internet as well. I've sourced different data because I wanted a large data set here. Now, what I've done is I've taken that information, I've taken from books and some literature as well to try and other people have done similar stuff, but I wanted to wrap it up into something simple. So, and so you ask that question to, say, the 20-year-olds, and you get their answer, and see where their focus is. You then ask the 30-year-olds, what did they prioritize then, and what do they wish they prioritized at 20? So not what do you prioritize now? We'll ask that them in the 30 category, but what do you wish you prioritized in your 20s? What do you wish you focused on? And we repeat that process. Ask the 40-year-olds, just the 60s, and we repeat this over and over again. So then we go to, say, the 30s and 40s, and we say to the 20-year-olds, what do you think is going to be important to them? Then we ask the 30s and 40s, what do you think is important now? And then we go to the 50s, 60s, 80s, 90s and say, what did you think was important? What do you wish you prioritized? And then over this, we plot that data over time to see how much of a dramatic shift there is in the moment, what we think is important, and later on in life, what we wish we actually place the importance on. Because that's what life's about, right? Is if we can take some of that knowledge and go, fuck, I know it seems hard to hear this, but if I can implement just a little bit of this, I'll have less regrets later on. And that's how we live a fulfilling life. The most common one here is we place way too much priority on money and building too much wealth, and we place not enough priority on health and relationships and family. And that's the common theme. If I'm summarizing this book up in one thing, that's the common theme. But we do go into a little bit more depth here. So I'm going to read through for today's episode. I'm going to read through not all of it, but some of the book to give you some insight and some of my favorite parts of the book to try and identify some things that maybe you can take away from this and implement and just start moving towards living a better life, one that we don't regret later on, or I'm not saying regret, but it's hard to have regrets, but one that we can be more aligned to what is important rather than in the moment what we think is important. And I know it's hard. I mainly made this book for myself, but it's quite profound and it's quite interesting to play out with other people. Now, I listened to a podcast this morning with Carrie Bradshaw and Tommy, and I don't think it was this morning. I just saw the episode today. But Carrie reads this letter she wrote to herself from when her son turned 18. And it's quite emotional. Got me in the feels big time. As a father, like I'm not a very emotional guy. I've only really shed a tear in my life in the past at funerals. I'm not really a big feeler until I had kids, and anything to do with my kids and them growing up and all that stuff, that gets me bad. Movies, everything, right, gets me bad. So I really felt what Carrie said on this episode, and my wife shared it to me, and it got me good. Where you can go look it up and have a look. I'm not going to take a limelight here, but basically she wrote this letter and said, tomorrow I'll do more things with my son. Tomorrow I'll hang out more. Tomorrow I'll play more basketball. Tomorrow, and then eventually she ran out of tomorrows. And it's this grief she's gotten with herself that she's constantly questioning herself to say, if I could go back, I'd change so much. But even if she went back and changed so much, she'd get to that same point and probably want to change more again. And it is what it is, right? But if we can take that information and try and just apply a little bit of it, I really think we could all live a much better life. So that's what I've tried to do. And no doubt, most of us will read it and go, nah, my situation is different, and we'll end up doing it. But if just some people or everyone can take something from it, I think it's really powerful. So let's get into it. I do apologize. My iPad is not charged because we only use it for the kids' car trips, and it's not charged. So we got the laptop here. So I apologize for this, but I'm casual with this shit. All right. So one note I put at the start of this book is that the reason for this is I started this journey when I realized that money's not the goal, it's the fuel, right? And we all get really caught up. We know that now. It's 2025. We hear this all the time. Money's the vehicle, not the goal. But do we really implement that into our lives? And I've got a note here that says, this is why I wrote the book, right? Their hindsight is greater than your foresight. Now, this isn't designed to make you feel good. It's designed to wake you the fuck up. Because every generation says the same thing. I wish I'd known sooner. And every generation after them ignores it, thinking they'll be different. You won't be, not unless you actually change. The patterns are predictable, the regrets are the same, and if you think you're the exception, you're not. This book isn't about wealth, it's about truth. It's about what happens when you chase the wrong things for too long and how to stop before life does it for you. If you get uncomfortable reading this or listening today, that means it's working. So in chapter 1, I go through ages 10 to 15, building the foundations. These are the years when you start noticing the world doesn't care who you are unless you fit in. At this age, you don't want truth, you want approval. You'll trade your real self for popularity without thinking twice. You'll start learning to wear masks, to act how you think people want you to act. That's the beginning of the rot. This is when the foundation of your identity forms, and most people pour concrete around insecurity. You copy what you see. You start believing that being liked means being enough. You're not special. Everyone at this age thinks the same way. They crave belonging more than honesty, and decades later, most of them still do. Adults look back and talk about how pure those years were, how much fun, how simple life was. But underneath, they remember being terrified of not being enough. That fear never goes away. It just gets dressed up in nicer clothes as you get older. The truth, if you don't learn to back yourself early, you'll spend your whole life performing for other people. Some generational insights for this. 65% of adults say they spent those years chasing popularity instead of building real friendships. 60% said their happiest memories were with family, not with friends. 40% said the hobbies they abandoned for approval were the things that would have made them happiest later. Some key generational comparisons. So for the focus area of age 10 to 15, 65% in that age valued popularity and appearance, 20% valued family connection, and 15% valued curiosity and creativity. When we asked the age bracket of 60 pluses what they went back and what they wish or what they value now comparative to that, popularity and appearance is 10%, family and connection 60%, and curiosity and creativity is 30%. What's the pattern? Everyone thinks they'll grow out of it, but they don't. They just replace the schoolyard with an office, the teacher with a boss, the friend group with colleagues, and the same craving for approval continues, just in adult language. They call it career ambition, social reputation, or professional branding, but it's still the same disease, insecurity disguised as motivation. The wake-up call: if you're young, stop pretending you have time to figure this out later. You won't. The people who say, I wish I'd learned this sooner, are telling you what's coming. If you're a parent, stop raising your kids to be impressive. Teach them to be comfortable being different. That confidence will carry more value than any grade, medal, or follower count. The Three Kings reflection in this: the strongest foundation isn't coincidence, it's clarity. The strongest foundation isn't confidence, it's clarity. Know who you are before the world tells you who to be. The longer you wait to find your identity, the more expensive it gets to rebuild it. Then we go to chapter 2, ages 15 to 18, where we start seeking independence. This is the stage where you think you're free, but you're not. You're loud about independence, but terrified of standing alone. You talk about finding yourself while copying everyone else. You chase acceptance, not authenticity. You think your thoughts are original, but they're not. They're recycled from the people around you: friends, influences, teachers, parents. You're a collage of other people's opinions and call it personality. Every teenager thinks they're different. None of them are. You think the world is watching you, but no one's paying attention. Everyone's too busy worrying about themselves. Still, you perform, hoping someone notices. You make choices based on how they look, not how they feel. You start shaping a version of yourself that wins approval but loses peace. And that fake version, most people never grow out of it. The generational insights for this is that 50% of adults say they wasted these years trying to be liked. 30% said they wish they'd cared less about social media and more about who they actually were. 60% said developing skills or passions made them happiest, not validation. Key generational comparisons. Peer approval, what they value at that age is 50% peer approval, 25% personal growth, and 10% mentorship and guidance, 15% in health and confidence. When we're 60 plus, what we value instead: 5% of peer approval, 55% personal growth, 25% mentorship and guidance, and 15% health and confidence. The pattern. Everyone at this age says they're finding themselves. The truth, they're just trying to survive the noise. You think freedom means doing whatever you want. Real freedom is being able to stand still while the world screams at you to keep up. Adults look back and laugh at their teenage selves, but not because they've grown wiser. It's because most of them are still doing the same thing at 40, just with higher stakes and nicer clothes. They still care too much about what others think. They still seek approval from people who aren't thinking about them at all. The wake-up call: if you're at this age bracket between 15 and 18, here's the truth. You don't know who you are yet, and that's fine. But stop pretending you do. The people who admit they're lost find direction faster than the ones who fake confidence. If you're older and still chasing validation, stop lying to yourself. You're not driven. You're just scared to disappoint people. You call it ambition because fear sounds weak. You want to know the real flex? Being comfortable enough to stop performing. My reflection: most people never grow up. They just get older while chasing the same approval in new packaging. If you want to stand out, stop trying to fit in. The crowd never built anything worth following. Chapter 3, from 18 to 25. This is the stage where you think you're about to figure life out. You're not. You've been told this is when everything starts: career, relationships, independence, money. You think you're building a future. Most of you are just building stress. You work hard, but for what? Half the time you don't even know. You chase money, validation, and the illusion of control. You want people to think you're doing well more than you actually want to be doing well. You tell yourself you're grinding. You're not. You're burning yourself out to impress people who won't remember you in 5 years. Everyone in this age group thinks they're an exception. You're not. You think you're smarter than the generation before you. You're not. You're repeating their mistakes just with newer tech and better lighting and filters. Generational insights for this age bracket: 70% of people in their 40s and 50s said they wish they'd started saving earlier. 20% wish they'd avoided debt completely. 60% said personal growth brought fulfillment, not work. And 40% said relationships mattered more than success, but they realized it too late. Now, I know they don't add up, those percentages, because people could answer with more than one thing in order. So, yeah, just to clarify that. At ages 18 to 15, our generation comparison is that career and income growth was 65% of our focus, relationships were 25, and health and balance was 10%. When we're 50 plus, career and income growth is 35%, relationships are 45%, and health and balance is 20%. The pattern, at this age, people don't chase meaning, they chase momentum. You want to move fast because stillness feels like failure. You think you're not ahead, you're behind. You're building ladders without checking what wall they're leaning on. Most of them are against the wrong one. You climb, 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 and then wake up one day at the top of the wrong life. You think stress equals success. You think exhaustion is normal. You think you'll slow down once you make it, but you won't. You'll just find new ways to stay busy because you don't know who you are without chaos. The wake up call. If you're between 18 and 25, stop romanticizing the grind. It's not noble, it's a distraction. Working yourself into the ground isn't a sign of ambition, it's a sign of insecurity. You're trying to earn self-worth through output. You're trying to prove you matter. The truth, you don't need to be exceptional. You just need to be consistent. You don't need to be rich, you need to be balanced. If you don't slow down now, life will slow you down later with anxiety, burnout, and regret. Ask anyone over 40 what they wish they'd done differently. They all say the same thing. I wish I hadn't been in such a rush. My reflection on this bracket is you can always make more money. You can't make more time. If your career is costing you your health or your relationships or your peace, it's not success, it's debt you'll pay with your future. Stop climbing ladders that lead nowhere. Define what enough actually means and build from there. The last one we'll go through today, I'm going to break this up into 2 episodes just for time. So chapter 4, ages 25 to 30, career and personal growth. This is the decade where you think you're building your future. You're actually building your habits, and most of them suck at the moment. You tell yourself you're hustling. You're not. You're burning out for validation. You're proving you can do it all while quietly falling apart. You mistake exhaustion for progress and chaos for purpose. You chase the illusion of balance but live completely out of it. You say family matters, but you work through dinner. You say health matters, but you eat stress for breakfast. You say you want peace, but you check your emails at 10 p.m. like peace depends on your inbox. You're not building a career, you're building a cage. Everyone in this age group does the same thing. You think you're being responsible. You're just repeating what everyone else did. Chase money, neglect health, push relationships to the backseat, tell yourself you slow down later. Spoiler, you won't. Later never comes. It just gets more expensive. The insights for this bracket. 65% of people said they overworked and missed moments that actually mattered. 70% said time with loved ones brought the most happiness. They just didn't make time for it. 55% said they believed being busy meant being successful. Now they know it meant being distracted. That middle one, like, I got goosebumps, man. Like, 70% said time with loved ones brought the most happiness. They just didn't make time for it. It's getting emotional, bro. That's full on, man. Like, reading this out loud is different to typing it. How many times do you catch up with your friends or family, and every time you do it, it's just the fucking best, and you go, we've got to do this more often, and it just doesn't happen, right? I'm guilty. Like, I wrote this for me. This is all shit that I have to listen to too. Now, I will say there is a difference between finding your passion and like grinding for money and finding your passion. There's a bit of a gray area because when you're working on your passion, it blurs the lines between that wealth triangle. When you're doing something you hate for money, it doesn't. There's no blurred lines. But you've still got to have the balance if it's your passion, right? Or something you love. Like, you've still got to find that balance because you'll still have the same regrets and you'll turn that passion into resentment. So there is a difference, right? Like, and I do think the younger generations coming up are finding their passions more and stuff like that. But it's still just as important. The generational comparison here is that at 25 to 30, we're 65% focused on career advancement. We're 10% focused on health and rest, and we're 25% focused on relationships and family. When we're 50 plus, we value 30% of career advancement, 40% of health and rest, and 55% of relationships and family. Now, it's important to note that obviously there's periods where you have to, and I really think life's backwards. Hey, like, when we want the most time, right? Like, when we want the most time, this is what society's built us up on. When we want the most time, it should be when we have kids and they're young. You know, that 18 years of your children, that's when we want the most time. But that's also our peak earning capacity. So, and you think about it, we spend that time stressed, frustrated, not enjoying it, and trading that to set ourselves up. And then we set ourselves up and the kids leave and we might have 5 to 10 years of bliss. And then you're like, Oh, and then we retire. And so you have the most amount of time at the point in your life when you don't need it. Like I have a client, it's actually a family member of mine, and I just think she's done it beautifully. So she spent her entire kids pretty much 16 to 18 years staying home and raising them. Copped a lot of flack for it too. And then they've left home and now she's started her career. And she's 50 something, but she's so in love with her career and she's like, I'll do this until I can't now. And she did it the other way. And I really questioned it for a long time, but it's actually beautiful. Like, and it's not feasible for everyone, right? Like someone in the family has to work. But yeah, I think like there's a whole social construct that we could question here and look at and think outside the box and do it a little bit differently. Like it's time for change. What's happening now isn't working. It's not fucking working. But there's a middle ground too, right? There's a middle ground between that. But it's important to note that these answers of generational conflict or comparison is where what these people wish that they had, what the allocation they'd made back then. So what's the pattern in this age bracket? Everyone thinks they're in control. They're not. They're slaves to momentum. You can't stop because you're tired. You've tied your identity to your productivity. You don't know who you are without work. You don't rest because rest feels like weakness. And one day you wake up and realize you've been sprinting on a treadmill that never moved. You look around and you realize you missed it. The dinners, the memories, the peace you kept promising yourself for later became never. This is when regret starts to plant its roots. You can't feel it yet, but it's growing underneath your success story. The wake-up call, stop lying to yourself. You're not doing this for the future. You're doing it because you're scared to stop. You tell yourself you're building security, but if your health collapses or your marriage cracks, what exactly did you secure? You can build wealth and lose everything that makes it worth having. If you don't build boundaries now, you'll spend your 40s paying for them. In therapy and medication, distance from people who stopped waiting for you to show up. This isn't balance. It's slow self-destruction disguised as success. My reflection is you think you're working hard for your family, but your family would rather have you than the results of you. You think time is money. It's not. It's life. You don't get refunds. If your work doesn't serve your health, your peace, or your relationships, it's not progress. It's debt. I'll do one more. So chapter 5, ages 30 to 40, balancing responsibility. This is the decade where life stops asking what you want and starts demanding what you can handle. You're not chasing opportunity anymore. You're chasing balance and you're losing. You're trying to keep your career alive, your relationship alive, your health alive, and if you're honest, you're failing at least one of them. You tell yourself it's just a busy season. It's not. It's your life and you're sleepwalking through it. This is where the world rewards the wrong things. You get praised for being dedicated while you neglect your body. You get respected for providing while you barely see your kids. You get admired for commitment while you quietly burn out. You become reliable to everyone but yourself. You think you're being a good parent, a good partner, or provider by working harder. You're not. You're teaching the people you love that money matters more than presence. You think you're building security, but you're actually building distance. Most people in this decade are running on autopilot, successful but disconnected, productive but empty. They're confused doing everything with doing well. The insights is that 60% of people said saving for the future was their top financial focus, 30% said home ownership was their main priority, and 10% focused on health and wellness. Later, 55% said they wish they spent more time with family, and 45% said they regret ignoring their health until it became a problem. The generational comparison is that at this age, career and income stability is 60%, whereas later on we said we should have only been 25%. Family time was 25%, and later on we said it should have been 55%. Health and well-being was 10%, and later on we said it should have been 45%. Pattern, this is the decade when people start believing their own lies. You tell yourself you're sacrificing now so you can enjoy later. You won't. Ask anyone in their 60s if later ever came. Most will say no, because by the time they stopped working, the damage was done. The kids had grown up, their bodies had broken down, their marriages had thinned out. You call it balance, but you're just juggling regret in slow motion. You think burnout is just part of life. It's not. It's proof that you've ignored every signal your body and mind have been screaming at you for years. You think you'll rest when things settle down. Newsflash, when? They never do. The wake-up call is that you're not too busy. You're just prioritizing the wrong things. If your schedule doesn't have room for health, connection, and rest, it's not a schedule, it's a suicide note written slowly. Stop pretending you're doing this for your family when they barely see you. Stop telling yourself you're being responsible when you're too tired to enjoy anything you've worked for. This decade is where you either wake up or you waste it. My reflection is that you think you're keeping it all together, but the cracks are showing. You're just too numb to notice. Money is supposed to build freedom, not fences. If your success costs your health, or family, it's not success. It's a slow trade of peace for approval. Stop managing your life like a spreadsheet. Start living like it matters. All right, so we'll stop there and we'll go on to chapter 6 next time. Now, I want to make it clear that I know it's a pretty brutal book and maybe a little bit pessimistic, but the reality is that every single person I've ever come across has more in common with this than they'd like to realize. Yes, there is outliers, right? Someone who can hustle for 1 or 2 years and set themselves up, or someone who, and even then, like I've got clients, you could set 5 to 10 years of real grind and set yourself up 100%. But what does that mean? Because even those people that hustle for 5 to 10 years, if they've done it by sacrificing family time, so they still regret that. You can't get those 5 to 10 years back. You can't get your kids' first steps back. You can't get teaching your kids to ride a bike back. You can't get their first sporting game. Like that, none of that comes back. There's a first time you'll do something that you'll never get back, and there's a last time and you won't know when that is. And that's what's scary. So I know this is a bit extreme, this book, but it's meant to be. It's meant to shock and awe. It's meant to shock and awe you into thinking, is there anything in this where you could take from this? I don't mean stop working, sit at home with your family. That's obviously unrealistic. But the reason it is so extravagant and so extreme in the way it talks is because most of you have more in common with those words than you think. And if you're sitting there and you listen to that and you go, nah, he's wrong, there's a good chance you're going to fall into that category of one of those people later on that goes, fuck, I wish I listened. And so I'm making it that extreme so that it really spikes your hearing, it really gets you to listen up and think, maybe I could dial things back a bit. Maybe working for those extra 2 or 3 years, or having a mortgage for another 1 or 2 years or 3 years, 5 years, whatever, is a better outcome than what I'm missing out now just to save that time. And I think that's really important. Again, my whole philosophy is about balancing the triangle of wealth, balancing your health with your money, with your lifestyle. And you've got to find that balance. And the true answer to it is stop chasing without a goal. Look and go, how much is enough? And put your plan in place to get to there. And then balance around that. Obviously, there's a minimum threshold. If you don't earn anything and you need to put food on the table for your family and you need to work all the time, that's a priority. Your survival level is a minimum. But in today's day and age, survival is easy. Thriving is hard. But a lot of us can just be in between that. You know, you might chase the goal of thriving for 40 years and never get to it. And when I say thrive, I mean being in that top upper income level or upper asset level. You might chase that for 30, 40 years, not reach it, and then be like, fuck, what's the difference between that and just being slightly above survival? And this is great with the housing market where it is at the moment. You know, people really, I'm going to miss out. I've got to get it. I really don't understand what's worse. Like people say, imagine not owning a home or something like that. Like I'm a rent investor. We are looking at our forever property at the moment, and I fucking hate it if I'm being honest, because it seems like a fucking big waste. But I do understand. I have purpose for it, so we're going to do it. But people get this home because we need to, and they get suckered into a mortgage they can't afford for 30 years or longer. And just to have this house at the end that's no different to renting, whereas potentially they could have lived a better life, worked for the same period of time, and just had their superannuation or investments be a little bit bigger to take care of rent for the rest of their lives. Yeah, it's not ideal. The ideal financial scenario is own your own home and have passive investments. But they're two very conflicting goals, and a lot of people can't do both. But we get suckered into the housing goal because we think, oh, that's what we're told to do. You live a life of absolute zero fulfillment. And then at the end of it, you got to sell the house anyway and move somewhere derelict to try and have enough money to put food on the table. When they probably could have just rented their whole lives, invested small amounts, and been in a better position. And I think, like, they're extremes, of course, but I'm trying to put this information out there for you to try and don't shoot me. Don't get offended and think, fuck, that's so this. If you do get offended with this, first thing I want you to do is take a breath and think, why is that? Why am I reacting that way to this? Am I triggered because maybe there's a piece of truth in it? And it's okay. I want to tell you that there's a lot of truth in that book for myself. A lot. I go through periods of it, and the beauty of me writing this book has helped me dial back to say, fuck, like practice what I preach. Because for me, I love my kids. I love my family. I love my health. I love making money. I love investing. I love going on holidays, and I love what I do. And it's really hard. I can get really caught up in the justification of I'm good at what I do. It's providing for my family, and I love it, and it's my passion. I'm helping people, and I can really drift away from my health, and I can drift away from my family without realizing because I'm justifying them. So I understand. Like I'm not sitting here on a high horse talking to you. I'm talking from the like from a relative position. Like I understand all of this. Like this stuff triggers me. Triggers me. Like it's hard to read sometimes. That's why I wrote it. Because if I need it and I'm so purposeful about what I do and I'm so purposeful in how I live my life and how I get my clients to live their life with balance, I'm still out of balance. It's inevitable. Society makes it that way. So if I'm out of balance, a lot of you are definitely. And so I'm not saying this to preach to you and do this. It's for me first and foremost that if it's helping me, it's going to help a lot of you. So if you do get triggered by it and you think, fuck this, just take a breath. I'm not attacking you. I'm trying to help. Sit back and think, why am I triggered by that? And how can I adjust? And it doesn't need to be drastic. You don't need to go from hustling to doing nothing. Just maybe take a little bit of time off. Just swing a little bit of your allocation towards health and lifestyle a little bit more. Just a little bit. That's it. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm trying to do here is just swing in small percentages. That's it. All right, so I'll film the next one next week and I'll go through the rest of that for the older ages so you can get some reflection. But those ones are most powerful for me because that's where I'm at. Hope that was good. I'll see you on the next session.